Aloha, I'm Patty Lee, and this is Hawaii Tourism Now, where we talk with various business leaders and government officials here in Hawaii to learn their insight and ideas about Hawaii's tourism industry. Today we have the new chairman of the Hawaii Restaurant Association and director of restaurant services for the Polynesian Cultural Center, Mr. Greg Maples. Mr. Maples will share precautions restaurants are taking in light of COVID-19, as well as preparations to begin opening back up and exactly how tourism plays a role in the operations of restaurants here in Hawaii. Aloha, Mr. Maples. Thank you for joining us today.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So, can you begin by describing the current state of Hawaii's restaurant industry in light of the collapse of Hawaii tourism and other factors such as stay-at-home orders and social distancing?
Yeah, you bet. First, I think it's easy to start out by saying the industry is in terrible distress. It's the worst in modern history. And it's just never been a time in the history of restaurants that it's been this bad. Overall sales are down probably 60 to 70%. Some are more, some are less. And of course, that's for restaurants that are open. Most have let go 80 to 90% of their employees. They can't pay their rent or other obligations. And we know that Hawaii restaurant owners and operators are among the hardest hit in the U.S. With our travel restrictions, we know that our economy has been hit harder than any other state. And so in turn, that placed a huge extra burden on our restaurant operators and owners.
Absolutely. I can definitely see how that would happen. And I understand that the HRA has submitted the COVID-19 reopening guidance publication to the Hawaii restaurant and food service industry to aid in the reopening of some of these establishments in Hawaii. On the high level, can you just tell us what that guide entails?
Sure. So the plan entails a lot of actionable items, but the general overall the kind of high points are it covers employee health and safety, cleaning and sanitizing, social distancing practices, and the continued use of technology to help minimize contact for the guests between the guests and the restaurants.
Good. So you're looking out for both employees and those that are visiting and dining in.
Absolutely. In fact, I think what on a little bit more granular level, you'll see employees will need to pass a health check, complete health surveys, because we want to make sure that the employees that come to the restaurant feel safe, that they're in an environment with people that are not sick. I think you'll see things like all the indoor and outdoor seating options will comply with whatever the social distancing guidelines are for the time. As you know, we go through different phases, those social distancing changes with time. And so there's a lot of, everything down to place settings and utensils and menus and condiments will either be single use or it'll be cleaned and sanitized after every use. I know the employees, if the employees feel comfortable that they're in a safe environment, that's going to communicate to the guests, and the guests will feel comfortable being in that environment.
I think those precautions will for sure cause people to feel safer. Are there any actions that you'd like to see on the state or county levels to help the Hawaii's tourism industry or restaurants as well?
Yeah, first I want to say that we're very grateful for the action that Governor Ige has taken by enacting the 14-day quarantine for all visitors. I think that was a huge deal. And while it was painful to have that happen, it was definitely made the difference. And as you know, we might have the hardest hit economy. We also have one of the safest states as well. Our numbers are incredible, and that goes to all the hard work that the people of Hawaii have done. And that was a tough decision. So we're grateful that he actually made that hard choice. And I know that there are other major players in other industries that are working to create their standards and their plans to allow tourism to start back up again. The airlines, hotels, airports, etc. I think the key is to have some kind of screening for those who travel. I think the public will probably see those kinds of things as part of a normal travel for a while, similar to what happened to us after 9/11.
Yeah.
And as time goes on, people will become more and more accustomed and at ease with the process, and I think people will become want to get back into traveling. But the key overall is to have a plan and to start allowing tourism back into the state. That's got to happen for us to have a full recovery.
Certainly. And once government lockdowns are lifted, on what timeline do you project that Hawaii tourism will return? And what are the indicators from your own industry that help with this projection?
Yeah, unfortunately, I think it's going to be a while before we see any kind of normalcy at all. I read one report recently and I think it was from an economist at UH, that said we would probably be at about 28% of our peak travel by the end of the year. So if you look at that and you say, okay, that's somewhere between 20 and 40%, just doing some averaging. So 25 to 40% of our peak. So we can then extrapolate that out to our budgets and say we can plan on 25 to 40% of our normal sales, which means we're still going to be down more than 50+%. Those are hard numbers to be able to try to make a business work. I also think the key will be helping the traveling public become comfortable with not only traveling, but comfortable with where they're going. I loved what Alan Oshima said recently when he talked about rebranding Hawaii as the safest destination for travel. That just rang so true to me. Number one, because we can do it as islands and as people, we can do that. And we can back that up because we've already done it. Look at our numbers. And so people can feel safe that they're coming to a place that's already done it. And so I think that's a good place to start and will help us in the long run. We know people are going to travel, and we just know that they're going to want to feel comfortable. And so as we declare ourselves as the safest place, I think more people will come, because the foreign borders are going to take a while to open, right?
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
People are going to want to travel. So you got New York and New Jersey and Louisiana and California that are still having a hard time. Why not come to the best place on earth and come to the safest place on earth? Come visit us.
I like it. Very well thought out. And how many restaurants do you think in Hawaii will maybe never reopen?
Oh boy. So I think because tourism is going to get hit and take so long to come back, my guess is 30 to 40% of the restaurants that close will never open again. And I also think that you'll see others who worked hard to stay open during the stay-at-home order that will eventually not be able to make it and throw in the towel. So I think there's going to be those that are still open now, but just won't be able to make it, due mostly to the ongoing costs, rent, and other things that they just can't get out from underneath. And I also would say that a lot of restaurant owners and operators were really planning on something changing in May 1st. So when we had the extension to May 31st, I think that took the wind out of a lot of sales. And I'm not saying that was wrong, but I think that is going to eventually ripple into the closures of restaurants.
Absolutely. And all of those decisions are having significant impacts. How should business leaders, do you think, be working together to help rebuild some of Hawaii's tourism industry?
We're all trying to work together and stay in touch, and we all got the same goal. We've had a chance to meet with Governor Ige twice as a restaurant association. And I'm very grateful that he took the time to not only meet with us, but I felt his sincerity in wanting to hear what was going on. For our first meeting was, what's hurting? What's going on? What are you hearing? The second meeting is, what's going on? What's hurting? And what are the plans? Help us with that. And so we're grateful that we had those meetings. We've reached out to Mayor Caldwell for those same meetings. We haven't had that chance yet, but we know that his staff is trying to get us in there to see him, because we want to be able to present our plan to make them comfortable and so that they know that we're ready to not only open, but to be a good partner with the state and the local authorities in opening.
And to do it safely.
And to do it safely, of course. The last thing we want is to do something that's not safe and then to have to go back. That would just be just devastating.
Yeah, absolutely. Is there anything that you would personally like to say to the community as far as the Hawaii tourism industry, as far as the restaurants are concerned?
You bet. And I try to get on this soapbox as much as I can. And so a couple things to come to mind. The restaurant owners and operators are ready to open. They're anxious to get back to doing what they love, and that is feeding the great people of Hawaii. I think people need to remember that the restaurant industry has been practicing food safety, sanitation, and other practices for decades. Mm-hmm. This is who we are. This is what we do. We have a partner in the Department of Health that acts as the inspection and training piece, that we've had that partnership for decades as well. And so the principles in our guide are nothing new to us. And to our other friends in the tourism business, we trust that they're going to do the right things as we are trying to do the right things. These are folks who have been practicing these principles for decades as well. And we look forward to their success, because that means it's ours. And our ohana here in the islands should feel very safe coming back to their favorite restaurants. And by the way, we can't wait to see you.
Well, thank you, Mr. Maples. I really appreciate your time and your insights.
Thanks.
Have a wonderful day.
You too.
Aloha.